1 week ago, China did something the United States spent decades insisting could never happen. On June 22nd, Beijing put 10 American companies on a blacklist and cut them off. Two of them were MP Materials and USA Rare Earth, the exact companies America is counting on to break free from China. And China did not just deny them a product. It denied them the raw material their entire business is built on. Here is the part Washington does not say out loud. China controls more than 90% of the rare earth processing that every advanced chip, every fighter jet, and every guided missile on Earth depends on. There is no quick replacement. Building one takes a decade. So when people ask who is really winning the technology war between China and America, the honest answer is the one nobody wanted to hear. To understand how America ended up here, you have to understand what just happened and why it is so much bigger than a single blacklist. For 3 years, the story ran the other way. America cut China off. No EUV machines from ASML, no top Nvidia chips, no American design software. We covered each one on this channel. Layer by layer, Washington tried to choke China out of the top of the chip stack. China's answer was not to climb. It was to reach down and grab the bottom of the stack, the part America forgot it did not control. Rare earths. 17 metals with names most people cannot pronounce. Neodymium, dysprosium, terbium, samarium. They sound obscure. They are not. They are inside the magnets that aim a missile, spin an electric motor, and run the drives in every data center training AI. And China owns them. This did not happen overnight. It happened in moves, each one tighter than the last. In December 2024, China banned exports of gallium, germanium, and antimony to the United States. Those are not side notes. America is 100% dependent on imports for the gallium and germanium it uses to make chips. Then in April 2025, China put its heavy rare earths and its magnets under a licensing regime, not a ban, something smarter. Every shipment now needs Beijing's permission, case by case. In October, China went further than any export control America had ever written. It claimed the right to control any product made anywhere in the world if it contains even a trace of Chinese rare earths. Think about what that means. A magnet built in Germany, in a motor assembled in Japan, inside a machine sold in America, can fall under Beijing's rules because the rare earth inside it came from China, and almost all of it does. America invented that kind of long-arm control to enforce its own chip bans. China just pointed the same weapon back. And then, starting December 1st, 2025, China made the rule explicit. Any company tied to a foreign military gets automatically rejected, not reviewed, rejected. And notice how surgical this is. China is building what it calls a validated end-user system, a fast lane for civilian buyers with no military ties, while defense-linked companies get refused on site. For everyone else, approval rates have collapsed. European firms are reportedly getting licenses less than a quarter of the time. This is not a blunt embargo that hurts China as much as its target. It is a scalpel. China keeps selling to the customers it wants, starves the ones it chooses, and decides who is who. And if you think China would never actually pull this trigger, here is the part of the story most people have forgotten. It already did. 15 years ago. In 2010, a Chinese fishing boat collided with two Japanese Coast Guard vessels near a cluster of disputed islands in the East China Sea. Japan arrested the captain. Within days, the rare earths that Japan's entire high-tech industry ran on stopped clearing Chinese customs. Beijing never admitted to a ban. It did not have to. The metals simply stopped moving for about 2 months, and Japanese factories began counting the days until they ran dry. Japan released the captain within weeks. The message landed. But here is the part that should worry Washington most. That scare became Japan's wake-up call, and Japan responded harder than almost any country could. It stockpiled. It funded mines overseas. It poured money into recycling and into an Australian supplier built specifically to route around China. And after more than a decade of effort and billions of dollars, Japan cut its dependence on Chinese rare earths from around 90% down to roughly 60. After 15 years of trying as hard as a nation can try, that is the realistic ceiling on how fast you escape this trap, and China has kept rehearsing the move since, more quietly. When it restricted antimony, Chinese exports of it fell by around 97% almost overnight, and global prices roughly tripled. That was not an accident. That was a demonstration, a controlled test of how fast Beijing can make a critical material vanish from the world market. Now let the stakes land. Take the F-35. America's most advanced fighter jet. Each one needs more than 400 kilograms of rare earth material, not grams, kilograms. It is in the targeting system, the radar, the stealth coating, the missile guidance. Now widen the lens. Virginia and Columbia-class submarines, Tomahawk missiles, Predator drones, the smart bombs the Pentagon drops by the thousand. Every one of them runs on rare earth magnets, and the supply chain for those magnets runs through China. The United States imports around 70% of its rare earths from one country. You already know which one. So when China says military requests are automatically denied, it is not posturing. It is putting a hand on the throat of the American war machine and squeezing slowly, in public, to prove it can. Which raises the question that should be keeping planners awake. Why can't America just make its own? This is the trap most people miss. They think the problem is mining. It is not. The United States has rare earths in the ground. It even mines a lot of them, around 50,000 tons a year. The problem is what comes after you dig them up. Raw, rare earth ore is worthless until it is separated and refined into pure metal, and that process is brutal, toxic, expensive, environmentally punishing. For 30 years, America was happy to let China do the dirty part. So today, China processes more than 90% of the world's rare earths and makes around 94% of the magnets. America can pull the rock out of its own ground and still has to ship it to China to turn it into anything useful. Mining was never the moat, processing was. And China spent 30 years building that moat, while everyone else looked away. Which brings us back to that blacklist from 1 week ago. The two American companies China just cut off, MP Materials and USA Rare Earth, are the exact companies the Pentagon is funding to escape this trap. The U.S. Department of Defense has poured over $400 million into building a domestic rare earth supply chain. It even guaranteed MP Materials a price floor, paying the difference whenever the market drops, just to keep the industry breathing. And China's answer was to add those companies to an export ban. Read that again. America's escape plan just got targeted by the very thing it is trying to escape. That is not a coincidence. That is a message. So how long until America is free? Be honest about the math. MP Materials is bringing a heavy rare earth separation plant online in the middle of 2026. Good. It is also trying to scale magnet production from around 1,000 tons a year today to 10,000 tons over the next decade. A decade. And remember Japan. A decade of all-out effort got them from 90% down to 60, not to zero. America is starting later and deeper in the hole. Meanwhile, the truce on some of these controls is set to expire in November 2026, and Beijing has kept every license and every approval firmly in its own hand. The honest timeline is not next year, it is the 2030s, if everything goes right. And things rarely go right on schedule. Until then, the leverage sits in Beijing. And that is the real lesson of this whole chip war, the one that ties together everything on this channel. America spent 3 years proving it could deny China the top of the stack, the lithography, the chips, the software, all of it real, all of it powerful. But while America guarded the top, China quietly locked the bottom. The raw inputs the entire stack is built on. Here is the rule that runs underneath all of it. Leverage is upstream. Whoever controls the input controls the industry. You can have the best chip designers on Earth, and it means nothing if someone else owns the metal your magnets are made of. America was playing chess at the top of the board. China was buying the board. The question now is not whether America can catch up, it is whether it can catch up before the next time China decides to close its hand. If you want to understand the war that is going to define the next decade, the real one, fought over materials and machines and not headlines, subscribe. We break down one move in it every single day, because the people who see the board clearly are the ones who do not get surprised. I will see you in the next one.